Welcome back to this Too Easy podcast. We're ready for another week of the NFL and some bowl games coming up this week for college football. So, Jake, why don't you kick us off with the slate this week?
Yeah, so college football got 5 or 6 games. One of the games we were going to talk about is playing tonight, West Virginia and Memphis.
Memphis.
Had Memphis on that. They're looking good so far. Hopefully they can keep it up. I know they were dogs, so yeah, go Memphis. But yeah, for the college football playoff games, we got 4 coming up this weekend, Friday and Saturday. The first one we're going to talk a little about is Clemson and Texas. Just based on the way that Clemson's been playing kind of around out the season, I feel like they're going to be able to keep themselves in this game. And right now they're 12 or 13-point dogs. So I'm just going to buy it up to 14.5 and take them. I think they probably lose the game by around a touchdown, maybe 10 points. But yeah, I do like them at 14.5.
Yeah, 14 and a half seems like quite a bit. I know they did get ran by Georgia to begin the year, and Texas had some good games with Georgia. So it kind of scares me there, but 14 and a half seems like a lot for a Clemson team that obviously just beat SMU in the championship game. Their defense has looked pretty solid. Their offense kind of shaky at times. They really just don't have the weapons. But I don't think Texas has the best weapons either. So I think this is a game that can cover two scores.
Yeah. Yep. Sounds good. Second game, we got Tennessee and Ohio State. That's going to be a big one. Ohio State, I think 7-point favorites right now, buying that down to 6.5. I think we've been kind of waiting for the Ohio State Oregon rematch the entire year since that one happened so early on.
Mhm.
And I do think it's going to happen. I do think Ohio State's a better team here with the home field advantage. I just have a tough time seeing them losing this game. So taking them minus 6.5.
Yeah, I like buying it down to 6.5 as well. I don't think that Tennessee's all that good. Nico, I think, is kind of a turnover machine, and I think against a good defense or at least a decent defense in Ohio State, he'll at least have one pick, if not two. Will Howard's not great with the ball. I could see him turning it over when he gets under pressure by the Tennessee defense as well. But I think if they stick to the run game, they should be able to dominate up front, get someone going, whether it's Travion or
Jeremiah Smith or something.
yeah, I mean Jeremiah Smith should get going, get a score as well. So I definitely like that. I think this will be an interesting game. I think they'll at least cover six. So I think we'll leave it at that. Yeah,
Yeah, we're thinking of Quinshon Judkins. That's who we're thinking
I was
of.
thinking of Judkins. Yeah, yeah, the guy from
Uh,
Ole Miss.
Yeah, and then we got SMU and Penn State. That
Hmm.
one's I believe at 8 or 8.5 right now.
Yep.
Been going kind of back and forth. We talked about this a little bit before the podcast. For some reason, I just feel like SMU, like after losing that close game in the ACC championship game to Clemson, I feel like it's just going to be this is going to be a battle for both these teams. It is a whiteout game though in Penn State, so it does have me a little bit worried. But I am going to buy it up to 10.5 and just take SMU to cover 10.5. I think it's going to be closer than people think, but I do think in the end Penn State will end up winning the game.
Yeah, I'm on the other side of this one. I like Penn State. I don't dislike the SMU play. Their offense has been fun to keep track of. So they could go out and score 20. I just do like Penn State's defense, even though I don't think they're phenomenal on the offensive side, which makes me lean on that 10-point spread that you got. But I think Penn State should honestly dominate this game. I don't think Clemson's all that good, and they still pulled it off against SMU. I'm going to take Penn State with the points.
Right on. Then we got 2 more, Indiana and Notre Dame. That's the last one in the college football playoff. I love the way Indiana's played this year. Obviously, their strength of schedule hasn't been all that great, so that has kind of been a large talking point at the end of the season here. But Notre Dame's also been playing incredible football. The last, like, obviously they lost that early one to Northern Illinois or whoever it was, but they've been perfect since. So I think they've got a lot of momentum rolling into this game, and playing at home is going to be a huge advantage for them, even though Indiana's not too far. I just think that Notre Dame is going to be able to handle them in this one.
Yeah, I definitely agree. 6.5 seems like a good play. This should be an interesting game. The thing that scares me, I could see it being like a 30-24 or something like that with like a backdoor cover by Indiana. So we'll see how the game plays out. I'm going to be leaning on that 6.5. Like you said, Indiana hasn't played the toughest teams. Notre Dame hasn't had the hardest schedule either, but they have been annihilating teams as well. They beat Texas A&M. I think it might have been the first game of the year. And Texas A&M ended up having a great year as well. They beat Georgia Tech. Granted, Georgia Tech didn't have their QB, but they handled them. So with that, I think Notre Dame's strength of schedule and experience being there is going to help them win and probably cover this game.
Yeah, for sure. And then the last one is a bowl game. We got Cal and UNLV playing. Right now, I believe it's a toss up, or UNLV maybe like a 2.5, 3 point favorite. Right now, just going to stick with them on the money line. Cal hasn't been great to close the year out. They've kind of been wishy washy throughout the year. They've kind of been a team that always starts well and then kind of lose their momentum halfway through the year. So it did happen again, but this is a bowl game. I just think the UNLV is going to have the better team overall, and I think that's going to will them to a win.
Yeah, UNLV had a really good matchup with Boise State. Ended up losing it, but Boise State's only loss was to Oregon on a walk-off field goal. So I think the competition there shows that they are a tough team. And so with that, UNLV in a pick 'em, I do like UNLV to win it. I don't know, Cal. I don't know. They're just hit and miss, and UNLV has been pretty solid. I like the quarterback that's been able to kind of be a dual threat, which has helped expand their offense.
Yeah, for sure. And then kind of transitioning over to the NFL real quick, the Thursday night game, we got the Broncos and the Chargers. Got the battle of the Oregon quarterbacks again. Bo Nix going into LA and playing Justin Herbert. For this one, the Chargers won in Denver the last time. They do need this one pretty badly just to kind of keep the playoff picture intact, or at least keep themselves on the right side of things. For the Broncos, it would be a huge step up because if the Ravens lose, I think they would take the 5 seed. But I just think the Chargers are going to win this game. I feel like Herbie, with his experience, with Harbaugh as a really good coach, and they've got a really good defense this year that they really focused on in the offseason. I do think that the Chargers are going to be able to come away with the win this one.
Yeah, I'm leaning on that as well. I'm not sure if it locks them into the playoffs, but if they win this, I think that puts them at 9 wins, and the most wins that the Dolphins and the Colts and whoever else is left could get to is 9. So I definitely think this is a big game for the Chargers at home. They beat them already in Denver. The thing that scares me, they did have J.K. Dobbins, who I think went for 100 yards that game and a score. So not having him will be difficult, but I think they'll be able to pick it up in other areas, whether it's Ladd or even Gus stepping up out of the backfield. Um, yeah, interested to see how this one plays out. I do like the Chargers just money line at home.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this one goes in a short week because both these teams are only going to have a single day of practice, single day to review film. So we'll see how this game plays out. Second game is the Texans and the Chiefs. Not sure kind of what's going on with Mahomes. He played with a bum ankle last year, but it is the regular season and they're 13-1. So there's really not a whole lot of reason to play him. So I don't know why they would play him, especially when they have Carson Wentz. He's a proven quarterback that can go and win games. So they
Yep.
still have a good shot to win this game. Um, that being said, I do think the Texans plus 3.5 is the play. CJ's been balling, beat the Dolphins when the Dolphins were on a roll last week. Obviously didn't play the greatest, but had a couple really nice touchdown passes to Nico. And yeah, I just think the Texans right now are on a roll. They're there to kind of get themselves back on the right trajectory for playoffs. Nobody's really talking about them right now, and we gave them a lot of love before the season. And I think if they can get it right and then train on the right track, then they're going to be a very good team come playoffs.
Yeah, I think I'm leaning on that plus 3.5 as well. It scares me going into Arrowhead. Carson Wentz was obviously a starting QB. Um, so I don't think they're losing much. It's not like Mahomes has had the greatest years. I'm kind of leaning on a lower scoring game for that reason, though. I do think the Chiefs defense is going to be able to step up, create a couple turnovers, and I think the Texans will be able to do the same. But yeah, I like the plus 3.5 for the Texans. I think they should be able to come away with a big win, get them up to a 10th win to try and keep up with possibly getting a third seed rather than a fourth.
Yep. And then Steelers Ravens, that game's pretty much for the division. That's going to be a really exciting game. I expect this one to be just eye popping. I don't know. To be honest, on the over under, I'm kind of back and forth just because the Steelers defense, when they get after it, they play really well against the Ravens and it usually goes under. But this is a home game for the Ravens for the division. Lamar's got 34 touchdowns, 3 interceptions on the year. He's playing lights out. If Josh Allen wasn't playing so good, he'd be right there with him in the MVP race. I think he probably should be. If not, Derrick Henry, a guy who's playing right next to him. But yeah, I think the Ravens are going to win this game. And we talked about this a little before the podcast. It doesn't make sense to take them money line in this game at minus 280. It makes more sense to take them to win the division at plus 140 right now. Just because if they win this game, they're pretty much a lock to win the division. So it just makes more sense than taking a minus 280. So I'm going to take them plus 140 to win the division from here. So yeah, that's who I'm liking.
Yeah, my lean's on the 6.5 for the Steelers, but I do think the Ravens win it. I think TJ Watt is out this game. He got hurt in the last game, and so leaning on the under as well because they continuously go
Pickens
under.
back?
Um, I think Pickens is playing. I don't think TJ is playing. But yeah, anyway, just the way the matchup continues to go, it continues to hit the under over and over and over again. Last time the Steelers won it with 6 field goals. So the Ravens defense stepped up in the red zone when it mattered most. They should be able to go out there and score. I know they had 2 or 3 missed field goals by JT last time, and it ended up costing them the game. I don't expect that to be the case this time. With an under, that makes me lean on the plus 6.5, but I do think Ravens win. So again, with their upcoming schedule, if they win this, they're tied at 10 wins. Just got to end it with some wins against the Browns and the Texans, I believe. Whereas the Steelers still have to go play the Chiefs and then the Bengals. So if you do like the Ravens, I like that plus 140 to win the division.
Yep, I think it definitely makes sense there. Next game, we got the Giants and the Falcons. Falcons are starting Michael Penix Jr., so this will be his first game. So Kirk looks like is handing over the reins to Penix. I don't know exactly what was the decision making behind that move, but I believe they still are in the playoff race. So feels like this is either let's see what this kid's got before the playoffs kick in and see if we can get a couple wins and if we can get some luck from the Buccaneers or exactly what'll happen. But I am leaning on the Giants plus 10. I do think that the Falcons will probably win this game. Penix's first game at home, just because the Giants are so depleted as a team and feels like they're tanking again for a quarterback. But who knows? They may end up signing one in the offseason. But yeah, I'm liking the Giants plus 10, plus 10 and a half maybe in this game.
Yeah, the Giants currently have the first pick in the draft. I don't think they do anything to jeopardize that. I'd be very surprised unless Dayball wants to lose his job for sure. So I do think they lose the game. I do think that they lose it respectfully. I think they keep the game close. 10 points seems like a lot, especially against Penix as a rookie. For a Falcons team that hasn't been looking very good on either side of the ball. I think the move's pretty clear in his last 5 games. Kirk has 12 turnovers, 9 picks, 1 touchdown. So definitely it needed to turn around. And even though they just pulled off a win, it didn't look good. So interested to see if it's just like a 1 game thing, see how Penix does, and then put Kirk back in there if they get the win, just
Yeah.
to give him a little motivation to earn his spot back. I think this could be Kirk's last year in Atlanta, even though it's his first year in Atlanta. So I'd be interested to see what happens with that. But I like the Giants plus 10 just in this matchup. Falcons win. We'll talk about the Bucks a little later. I think that's an interesting division as well because the Falcons have both head-to-head matchups over them. So if the Cowboys end up beating the Bucks, which we'll get into, the Falcons are plus 280 to win the division right now, and if they win, then they'll be tied. So again, if you like the Falcons this week, even if you don't like the minus 500, plus 280 to go win the division.
Yeah, I like that. But yeah, I'm going to stick with Giants plus 10 and a half. I like it a lot. Kind of funnily enough, thinking about it, if Penix plays really well and ends up being the starting quarterback for the Falcons and Kirk is a free agent, then the Giants could be the team that ends up signing Kirk. And that would be an interesting fit because if they can go and get like 2 offensive linemen in the draft, then they actually could be decent with Malik Neighbors and some of the weapons they have. So that may be an interesting development. See if that happens. Maybe see if you can find Kirk Cousins to be a Giant next year somewhere.
I could see him.
Doubt that.
I could see him doing that if they're going to train Shador or somebody behind him. I don't think he's going
Yeah,
to just go take over. But
yeah, true. But yeah, then we got the Lions and the Bears. Another fun game, divisional game. Just riding the Bears 6.5. The Lions obviously have just been, I've, everybody's hurt, so don't really know like what to say other than that offense continues to roll. But now they've lost David Montgomery, so it's going to be a lot more of Jameer Gibbs and the wide receivers and Laporta. So I feel like the Bears are going to be able to keep themselves in this game. I think with the Lions depleted front seven on defense, I feel like Caleb's going to have a little bit more time to get the ball out, and I feel like he'll have a good game this game. I do like the receivers that Caleb has. I just feel like right now their offensive line is terrible, and he's not quite getting the ball out on time. But as he develops, I feel like he'll kind of fix that, and hopefully this game will be a good stepping stone for him.
yeah, I like the 6.5 of the Bears. I like I think it was 13 at on Thanksgiving Day. Obviously took a money line then. I'm going to take a money line again. The Bears are 4-9, I believe, 4-10.
Yeah.
Um, I think everyone's going to be on the Lions money line. Just thinking that there's going to be a lot more value out of it at a 6 point line than there was when it was 13. And so going into Chicago, like you said, they're 10 of 11 starters on the defense are out for the season. Then they lost David Montgomery as well. Um, I think this gives the Bears a perfect opportunity to show hope, get a little confidence back instilled in Caleb, and to get a big win at home, as well as having that motivation to knock the Lions from the division title and 1 seed.
Yeah, it would be cool to see the Vikings win it, man, especially in a year that nobody expected it.
Mhm.
But yeah, then we got the Browns and the Bengals. Nothing pretty to say about that game. DTR, I believe, is starting. The Bengals are probably going to score 45 minimum. So I'm just going to take the Bengals money line.
I'm on the Browns plus 7.5. I don't know how I feel about the game. I don't love DTR. He'll probably throw a pick. I could see him using his legs a lot, so I'm not sure what his line's at. Probably 35-ish yards, but I'd probably go over on that. Yeah, not much to say. I'm probably not going to touch the game.
Yeah, makes sense. Then we got the Titans and the Colts. Another game that didn't really like the line. Just kind of finally decided taking the Titans plus 3.5. They're benching Levis for this game. Going to give Mason Rudolph a shot. So I feel like they're going to play a little bit better this game with a little bit more oomph and team camaraderie around Mason. Obviously, Will Levis has struggled pretty much ever since he was been their starter. So yeah, I just think Mason Rudolph gives them a better chance to win. This Colts team is definitely not great, so obviously leaves the door open. Titans can run the ball and they can stop the run. So if they can do that effectively against the Colts, we'll see.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I'm not exactly sure where I'm leaning with the great pass defense of the Titans going against Anthony Richardson. They should have a field day. I think Shane Steichen probably understands that, and so I do think this is a game where Anthony Richardson probably runs the ball quite a bit. So I think Anthony Richardson going for 60, 70 rushing yards could be good props to take this week.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'd
don't
take
really
that.
have don't really have that much of a lean, but if I had to bet, I'd probably go with the Titans plus 3.5.
Right on. They got the Rams and the Jets. Got the Jets at home coming off a nice win last week. Um, if their offense is going to play like that, it's tough not to bet on the Jets. We talked about this a lot earlier in the season. It's just like if Aaron Rodgers is playing like that, and he's got Devontae catching the ball for 160 yards or 190 yards and two scores, like it's tough not to bet on the Jets because their defense has always been pretty rock solid the last 5 years. So I'm just going to take them plus 3 at home dogs. So yeah, ride it.
Yeah, I need the Rams bad here. They keep getting the job done. I don't bet on the Jets anymore, but I'm going with the Jets plus 3 at home. Rams have a long flight, which I talked about when we talked about the Bills going to LA. So now, vice versa. I think the Rams have a long flight to go into New York. Jets are going to be rested at home, and they just played well. So we'll see if they can keep the momentum going to at least cover 3, if not win at home.
Yeah, that should be a fun one. Then we got the Eagles and Commanders, another fun one. I think we're on opposite sides of this one. I like the Eagles money line in this one. I just think they're on a roll. When in doubt, just give the ball to Saquon. AJ Brown got a lot more targets last week. Looked really, really good. Devontae Smith still out there, can catch balls. So I just have a feeling the Eagles are going to be able to take care of the Commanders this week.
Yeah, this is a fun one. Commanders should have probably won the last game that they played. They dominated up until the fourth quarter. Kind of fell apart there at the end. Missed field goal, big Saquon break at the end. But it all started with a touchdown for Jalen Hurts on a tush push where he fumbled before the ball was even crossed the line. It was ruled a touchdown. Super questionable play. The lineman had his, or line judge had his hands in the air when the ball was on the ground. So it was like, what are we doing? That turned the game around a little bit. It was 10-3, I think, up until that point. Commanders were winning in Philly. At home, I think Commanders should be able to take care of business. I like the plus 3.5. And coming off last week, the Eagles finally went back to throwing the football, which I kind of figured they would do, beating the Steelers over the top. So we're all over that last week. Um, and then they're due for a loss. Why not to the division rival Commanders at home, who played them tough last time? I think it's a weird spot for the Eagles where they just threw the ball so effectively that I think they get caught doing it this week against the Commanders. I think the Eagles are at their worst when they're trying to throw it too much because if you have a good team that can pass rush, when Jalen Hurts gets rushed, he turns over the ball a lot. And then
Yeah.
when they're playing from behind, they tend to not run it as much. And they win football games by dominating the line of scrimmage and running, letting Hurts get out of the pocket, use his legs, and sling it. So I feel like between that mixture of how much are we going to give Saquon the ball because we're trying to get this guy MVP or somewhere like that, whereas they just threw it so effectively, they might kind of be confused this week of where their identity is. So I'm gonna take Commanders money line, but I like the plus 3.5.
Right on. Cardinals and Panthers. I don't really have too much to say. The Cardinals had a really nice win last week. I just don't think it's going to continue. The line, I believe they're 4.5 point favorites right now. I'm just going to lay off it just because I don't like this game. If I had to lean something, I'd probably just lean the Panthers with the points. But there's just no telling with this Panthers team right now.
Yeah, this was an interesting one because I feel really confident that the Panthers go win this football game. So I'm gonna take the plus 4. I'm gonna take points at home for them. They played. We talked about it going into this Cowboys week. They had 5 straight games where they won two, had 3 close games, all within a score to the Eagles, Chiefs, and Bucks. So they're playing good football from start to finish. Though the Cowboys just dominated that game, line of scrimmage from the start. I mean, I think Bryce got sacked 6 or 7 times. Because of that, they started playing down. And even when it was 10-7 at halftime, it should have been 17 or 13-0. But Cooper
Yep.
Rush fumbled in the 15-yard line or so. And then first play after that, Panthers threw an 85-yard touchdown. And outside of that, they had nothing going. Um, yeah, like you said, Cardinals coming off a big win. They're 7-7. Their hopes for the playoffs are still alive as well as winning the division. So this is a big game for them. But for some reason, I'm just all over the Panthers. I like them this week.
Right on. Yeah. No, they're at their home this week, and they've definitely been playing better the second half of the season. And Bryce Young's finally starting to find his footing, it seems like. So that's kind of cool. Vikings and Seahawks. Another game that's just like holy crap. And this one's 3 point home dog. So it's just like wow. I like the Seahawks at home. They got to win to keep themselves alive in the division. I'm not sure they'll win the game just because the Vikings have so many weapons and Darnold's playing lights out right now. And if they can still go win the division right now, it's completely wide open. So I do think there's a very good chance the Vikings might win the game. But the Seahawks being 3 point dogs at home, it's pretty tough not to touch that. I may buy it up to 3.5 and just keep it within a field goal.
Yeah, I feel like this is like a 23-20 game. And
Yeah.
so with that being said, I'll take the Seahawks getting the 3 at home. If they lose, I feel like it would be by 3. The thing that worries me is I think Geno Smith's out.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and so I'm not exactly sure. So I'll probably leave this one alone, but if I had a lean, I'm going on the Seahawks. It really scares me with the Rams having a tough game all the way in New York, and the Seahawks being at home against a red hot Vikings team in Seattle. I could see Darnold throwing a pick or two, making it an interesting game. So we'll see how this one plays out. But Drew Lock's not a scrub back there. Or no, it's not Drew Lock. Who was
Sam
it?
Howell.
Sam Howell. Sam Howell is a
Oh
scrub, but
man.
that's fair.
Oh
Sam
my
Howell.
gosh.
I hated on him on the Commanders when everyone was like, "This guy's so good." I was like, "What do you mean?"
Oh my gosh, that's so funny because I'm just thinking about that Instagram video I sent you earlier today.
Mm,
Oh my gosh,
Sam Howell,
I
the guy's
started
trash.
crying watching that. That was so funny. But
Um,
yeah, no, I think
so pick. I'd probably take a pick.
If Sam Howell's playing, I'm definitely taking the Vikings -3. Um, if it's not Sam Howell and anybody else is playing, I'll take the Seahawks plus the points. But this is going to be a tough one if Sam Howell's in there. I can see a couple picks on both sides of the ball probably happening.
Yeah, they need to go sign Teddy Bridgewater before this game happens, and go from there. Yeah, if it's Sam Howell, I'm going to take him to throw a pick, probably two. But I think I might take Darnold to still throw a pick or two, just to keep it close.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
man, that's. I hope Sam Howell plays. I need the Rams for that parlay to hit. So
Yeah,
we'll see.
yeah, that would be interesting for sure. Definitely gives your parlay a better shot. see what that cash out value goes up to.
It's 220 right now. It's 70 to
That's
1 from when I put it in. So
all right. Well, then we got Patriots and the Bills. Patriots 14-point dogs on the road in Buffalo. I'm buying it up to 17.5 and riding with the Patriots. Their defense hasn't been bad. Drake May's actually been watchable as a rookie. He has not been bad. Hasn't had an offensive line, so he's pretty much just got to do everything with his legs. And he's been incredible with his legs. So it's been pretty fun to watch. Kind of feels like it's just a one-man army out there with him. So if they get some pieces around him, build an offensive line, their defense is already great. So I feel like they have some potential to get better in the next few years, which is kind of scary because it's the Patriots and that sucks, but it is what it is. But yeah, I'm going to take them plus 17.5 here against the Bills.
yeah, I like buying it to 17.5. Again, don't love it because the Pats suck. Bills have been balling. I could see this being a 41-17 game or something, but I could also see it going low scoring. So I think 17.5 is probably a safe play. But with the Bills and how their offense has been looking, you really never know.
Yeah, it could be a 48-3 game.
I
We'll
feel
see.
like I feel like Mayo comes out and he tries to get Drake May moving it with his legs and then try and get Stevenson going. So I think Stevenson probably has a decent game, and they more so try and control the clock and get some points on the board. So maybe
Yeah.
the field goals for the Patriots kicker over 1.5 is probably the move, but we'll see.
Yeah. No, I like that. Then we got the Jags and the Raiders. Talked about
The
this
shit
earlier.
bowl.
It's a
Yep.
complete toilet bowl of a game. Don't like either team to win this game. If I had to pick one, I'd pick the Raiders just because I like their center, Jackson Powers Johnson from Oregon. He's an absolute dog, but he's got no one to snap the ball to back there. Although Aiden O'Connell should be back, so I am leaning on them. Definitely should win this game. For some reason, I just feel like there's going to be a ton of offense in this game, and randomly, I feel like Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers. It's a complete takeover game from those two, and on the opposite side, Brian Thomas and the other Jags receiver that's been playing really well are both going to have really good games as well. So there is a prop that I like, or alternate light, not line that I like right now. It's over 57.5. That would mean it's going to be something like a 30 to 27, 31-27, something like that game. Probably not going to happen, but it's plus 830. And if there was ever a game to just randomly like have a ton of offense and be really entertaining, it's probably going to be this game that no one's looking forward to. So that's kind of what my thoughts are going into this game. To shoot for the stars, maybe see if a plus 830 might smack, and hopefully be swimming back to the bank with that one.
Well, good news for you is that the Jets, who haven't scored 30 all year, just dropped 32 on this Jags defense. So
True.
if anyone could do it, it's Aiden O'Connell who goes out there and slings it like no other. He reminds me of Big Ben. He'll have 400 yards, 3 scores, and 3 picks. So I could see
Jags put
that
up 25
happening,
last week,
but
so they're
but
respectable.
yeah. So I don't really have much of a lean on this game, but why not? I'll ride the 57.5 plus 830. If you think they're going to put up 60, it's plus 1100 almost. So
Oh my gosh.
maybe a defensive touchdown in this one. Maybe both ways.
Yeah,
We'll see.
honestly, it could happen. Maybe a special teams touchdown, defense slash special teams touchdown could be a sweet prop
Mhm.
for this one. But yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to it. It's at least going to give me a reason to watch this game, so I'm looking forward to it. Then we got the 49ers and the Dolphins. Not too much back and forth. The 49ers are having a tough season, kind of similar to the Cowboys, just not looking good this year. Um, Brock Purdy's had a few off games, and the off games have really cost them, along with just so many injuries. Christian McCaffrey not being able to be healthy has just really been costly for them. We were talking about this earlier on in the season, like $110 million dollars of their cap was injured on the sideline, and like 4 or 5 players. Hasn't gotten much better for them. Then now they've got players that don't want to go into the game, so that's just great. But yeah, for that reason, I'm leaning the Dolphins money line. Kind of keeps their playoff picture hopes alive. I don't think they're gonna win out, but they should be able to beat the Dolphins or the Niners here at home.
Yeah, they usually play pretty well at home. The Niners defense got Greenlaw back for half of the game last week, and he looked phenomenal. I think he had 8 or 9 tackles at halftime. Hufanga was back with 9 tackles. Frank's back out there, 14 tackles. So their defense is definitely good. I could see him getting another takeaway from Tua, who threw 3 picks, I think, last week. Mike McDaniel looked like he was ready to commit suicide out there watching his QB throw 2 picks in the red zone and just another horrible pick. I think he knows Tua might throw two more this week, and then he might be on the hot seat and lose his job for that reason. I think that'd be a fun spot to see if Teddy Bridgewater goes back, or if maybe we see a Kirk Cousins to the Dolphins next year kind of thing while they look at drafting someone new
Yeah.
for health reasons behind Tua, as well as just seeing the future is probably not him at this point. I could see Kirk going over there and then drafting someone to maybe develop for a year or two. Um, but yeah, Dolphins are usually good at home. I don't have much of a lean. I'm leaning on Dolphins at home to win the game.
Right on. Last two got the Buccaneers and the Cowboys. One we kind of alluded to earlier. Do like the Cowboys +4 here. I liked them last week against the Panthers. Caught me a nice cover and a money line win, which was beautiful. But yeah, no, I like them again this week against the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers have had those games where when they play a really, really good defense that just shows out, they can struggle. So I do expect Baker to throw a few picks in this game. I expect the Cowboys defense to get after him early. Possibly another defensive score in this game on either side of the ball, really, with Cooper Rush as the Cowboys quarterback. But I do think being at home, the Cowboys have a little bit more to play for to kind of look forward to next season, kind of show like when we have Dak back and he's playing well, like we can be a scary team. We just need to go to the draft, get a few more guys, and we're going to be there.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I think everyone's going to be all over the Bucks, having come out and smacked the Chargers on the road, getting up to 8 wins, and the Cowboys haven't looked good all year.
Yeah.
Um, with that being said, I like the +4, and I do think the Cowboys are going to win this game at home. They've been pretty bad at home, so I think that's also part of the line. Um, but again, they've been running the ball really effectively. Rico Dowdle just had his third straight 100+ yard game. I think he dropped 150.
Yeah.
And the Buccaneers' rush defense has not been great, so I could see Rico continuing to move it. If CD gets going, Fergie could open up the middle a little bit. I'm kind of leaning on a lower scoring game for this one. Um, the Cowboys defense just showed out against the Panthers. And so I think if they can get after Baker and not give him much time, then it could be a low scoring game, which favors the plus points for the Cowboys.
Yeah, I do think it's worth talking about with the Cowboys. It feels like over the course of the season, their offensive and defensive lines have gotten a lot better throughout the course of the season. Like at the beginning, we were just like, what the hell is going on? But now it feels like we actually have something to root for out there. Like Cooper Rush has some time to deliver the ball, which is nice to watch. So hopefully they can kind of keep it up and get themselves a nice win here against Tampa. Then the final game, we got the Saints and the Packers on Monday night. That should be an absolute banger. Maybe a Christmas game. I can't remember which one that is. I think it's the Monday night game. But the Saints are 13.5-point dogs against the Packers. They just lost to the Commanders by one. Played a really close game. Obviously, it was probably closer than it should have been up at the end. But I do think the Saints are going to be able to cover 14. They usually play the Packers pretty tough. I like Kamara in these type of games. Kamara versus Josh Jacobs, classic night. I feel like that could be run a lot of time off the clock, and for that reason, I think that the Saints can keep it within two scores.
Yeah, I think I saw 99% of the money is on the Packers to win this game and 80% to cover 14, which seems like an awful lot for
Yeah,
good reason. The Packers, in my opinion, look like the most complete team probably in the NFC. Everyone just goes out there and they do their job. So two props I will say I'll get to right after this, but I think Saints are going to cover 14. I think that's my play. I'm not exactly sure if Kamar's playing. I know he went down, I think, in the third quarter last week and
okay.
didn't return. I think he's going to be back. Not too sure. Hayner's trash, so the line makes sense for it to be 14. But with all the money coming in, I'm just going to fade it and go Saints plus 14 on the road. And then going off that, Packers to win the NFC is plus 600, and then the Rams are plus 1400 to win the NFC. I think those are the two most complete teams currently in the NFC outside of the Eagles. Obviously, if you follow us, you know that my preseason pick for the NFC was the Eagles. So I already have that pending with a lot better value than the 200 you're getting now. But I do think either the Packers or the Rams end up making it to the NFC Championship, where if we get to that point, you can always hedge. But I think plus 600, plus 1400 is great value for both of those teams to make the NFC Championship. When you have a Vikings team that continues to surprise people, the Lions who are continuously getting banged up over and over and over, they just keep losing more and more pieces. And then obviously like the Eagles being there as well.
Yeah, I mean the NFC North teams as well as you know, sorry, the Lions, the Packers, um, Vikings, like all those teams are prone to losing big games. Like we've seen those teams lose playoff games, so I feel like that does kind of leave the door wide open for the Rams or for the Eagles to win the division. So I do really like those picks right now. But yeah, no, that wraps it up for the NFL. I don't really have like any others that I like. Last week's parlay did end up going 3 for 4. Ended up losing out on the Dolphins money line, I believe. So that sucks, but we'll see if we can't cook up something special for you guys for this week and hopefully hit it. But yeah, that'll do it. And until next week, hope everybody enjoys the weekend. Enjoy the college football playoff games, and we will see you next week. Peace.
Yep. See you.